Which player should you be targeting in your dynasty teams on the waiver wire for a deep stash? We are talking about that in today's video. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. We put out content almost every single day of the week. We go live, help you with your questions. This is a deep dynasty waiver wire show. There's enough waiver wire shows for you redraft players. All the redraft players that are being talked about for waiver wire week 2 or week 3, whatever you call it, they're all on dynasty teams. So this is specifically for you dynasty players, you degenerate to play in 30, 35-man teams or 16-man team, 16-team leagues and things like that. So this is pretty deep stuff here. And we're kicking it off with the quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson, pretty obvious one here. Hopefully you have him rostered. I mentioned back in July that we should be rostering both Mike White and Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins because I want the QB2 for the Dolphins. They're a really good team with a really good offensive system. And if one of these guys, now it's going to be Skylar Thompson, were to take over as the quarterback, then I think they could put up solid numbers. And I think Skylar Thompson, they like him enough to where they feel a little bit confident to run a offense. Now, we've only seen him really since in his rookie year. And he was like a 5th-round rookie, 6th-round rookie, maybe even 7th. He was a very raw quarterback. Now he's been on the team for a few years. I don't judge him based on what he looked like Thursday night when he came in. It's so hard to come into a middle of a game with a game plan already set for a specific quarterback in Tua. Now they're going to build the game plan and the offense around him. Skylar Thompson needs to be rostered. Tyler Huntley is also on this team. They picked him up earlier in the week or over the weekend. And he's another one. We've seen him before. He can give you a solid rushing floor. He also needs to be rostered in case Skylar Thompson is not good. Obviously, this is for Superflex Dynasty leagues. Mason Rudolph. If you're watching Will Levis, you've seen him basically lose the Titans 2 games in a row with a stupid play. Definitely week 1, his pick 6 that he threw. Then week 2 against the Jets, he kind of did a similar stupid thing. That's not going to last very long. It's one thing if you're just you're going through the ups and downs and the growth pains and the learning curve and all that stuff. It's another thing if you're handing losses out and your team should be winning games because of your mistakes. That's not going to last very long. If they keep it up, they're going to move to Mason Rudolph. I guarantee you, who's the backup for the Titans right now. And Mason Rudolph, again, super flex league. And my point is not necessarily, you can start these guys and get points. My point is, if you grab Mason Rudolph and he becomes the starter, his value goes up, right? His value is better. Automatically, it's better. And so that is important to me. If I can trade these guys for something, if I can trade them for, a 4th-round pick, right? I'll take it because I picked this guy up off the waiver wire and now I get a 4th-round pick for him. Ryan Tannehill is another one. Ryan Tannehill, to me, needs to be rostered. We already have 2 starting quarterbacks go down in 2 straight weeks. So we have Jordan Love and then Tua Tagovailoa. It's going to continue to happen. I don't know what team Ryan Tannehill is going to go to. I don't know if he's even going to go to a team. But if these injuries continue to pile up and a contending team loses their quarterback, they're definitely going to call Ryan Tannehill. And we're going to hope that we're going to have a repeat of Joe Flacco 2023. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't have a graphic for him, but Jimmy Garoppolo is someone that I think you should be picking up potentially if he's out there on waiver wires, just because I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams trade him. If they can get something for him. They have Stetson Bennett, who I think they kind of like and can be decent in that offense. If they can get something for Garoppolo, again, a QB-needy contending team loses their quarterback and they're willing to pay for Garoppolo, I think that the Rams may do that. Jeff Driscoll is the last one here. This is pretty gross one. Jeff Driscoll, if you didn't know, is the backup quarterback to Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. If you watch how Jaden Daniels plays, you can see where he can get injured because the guy takes hits and he really shouldn't be taking those hits at his size in the NFL. He's going to get hurt if he continues to do it. I don't want him to. I'm not wishing it into existence, but Jeff Driscoll is the backup quarterback right now for the Commanders. Marcus Mariota is on the IR with a chest injury. I don't know when he's going to be back. And then they have rookie Sam Hartman out of Notre Dame. So Jeff Driscoll will be plugged into this team. I expect him at least to be a QB4 in a Superflex league. Not really excited about Jeff Driscoll. Running backs, Dearness Johnson is the RB2 as of right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars if Tank Bigsby is hurt. We saw him come in and he got 5 touches, ran for 26 yards. Tank Bigsby got hurt on like a kickoff, I believe, where he fumbled. He hurt his shoulder. And Dearness Johnson, who we saw last year, actually looked pretty good at times down the stretch. Dearness Johnson, if Tank Bigsby is hurt, is the RB2 for the Jaguars, and that is going to be valuable. Any RB2 is valuable because all they have on their roster is Keelan Robinson, a rookie who's on IR. He's more of a return guy, and then they have another rookie on their practice squad. Maybe they bring in a free agent. I don't know. But, Dearness Johnson could have a good run here if he is the RB2 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Deneric Prince is someone that I talked about last week on the Waiver Wire show. He's on the practice squad of the Miami Dolphins right now. And I've been telling you guys, there's a few teams in the NFL where I want all the running backs on their active roster. The Lions, the Rams, the Dolphins are one of those teams, the 49ers. And I even want the practice squad players on some of these teams, especially when the starters start to get hurt. The reason why he was on the waiver wire last week was because Mostert and Achane were both beat up and injured. Mostert missed the game. Achane played, but then Jeff Wilson got hurt in that week, that Thursday night game. I don't know what his injury status is. He has an oblique injury, so he can miss some time. So now you're down to, if Mostert's going to miss more time, you're down to Achane and Jalen Wright. I guarantee you, if they only have 2 running backs, they're going to call up their practice squad guy, and that is Deneric Prince. So you can see the path for Deneric Prince to actually get some playing time for the Dolphins. You really can. They use 3 running backs already. So he's kind of, right now, the 3rd running back for them because, again, Mostert's hurt, Jalen Wright's hurt. On their practice squad, they only have Deneric Prince. So I would be stashing him just to see what the what's going on with Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Dare Ogunbowale with Mixon being beat up, with Dameon Pierce being beat up. I wouldn't be surprised if this team, obviously they're going to use Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is rostered still for a lot of you deeper dynasty leagues. Dare Ogunbowale might not be. And Ogunbowale can catch some passes. I think it would be more of a committee with him and Akers. And, if you play in a very deep league and you can get, 10 touches from Ogunbowale in week 3 with 2 or 3 catches, like that might be worth starting if you play in these deep dynasty leagues. So Dare Ogunbowale, depending on the health of Mixon and Dameon Pierce, could be a stash. Hassan Haskins, I mentioned him last week. He is seemingly the RB3 for the Chargers. They had Kamani Vidal last week as a healthy inactive. On all the depth charts that you look at, it's Hassan Haskins is the RB3. He has the connection with Harbaugh going back to Michigan. Now, he could be active over Kamani Vidal because of special team stuff. That's a big thing that teams do, right? The RB3 technically on the team is not very good at special teams, so the RB4 is active over the RB3. That could be the case here. But if something were to happen to J.K. Dobbins, who's been injured the last 2 years with major injuries, or Gus Edwards, who also has his own injury problems, Hassan Haskins, there's a path for him to be on a starting team and having fantasy relevancy. Chargers are another one of those teams. I probably want to roster all the running backs on their active roster. Moving right along, the last running back here is Amani Bailey or Keontae Ingram. Both these guys are currently on the Chiefs practice squad. Now, it was just announced like right before I hit record that the Chiefs are signing signing Kareem Hunt. So that kind of puts a little bit of a damper here. So you have Carson Steele, you have Kareem Hunt, you have Samaje Perine. So probably not very good here, but if one of those guys do get hurt, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire stays out a little longer, they could call up either Amani Bailey or Keontae Ingram. I kind of like Amani Bailey as a pass-catching guy. So if something were to happen to Perine, I actually think Amani Bailey or Keontae Ingram will be called up to be kind of that replacement for Perine. So just some names to keep an eye on. Not necessarily have to stash these guys unless you play in pretty deep leagues. Wide receivers, a couple of guys that maybe are already rostered, or I think they should be. Ray McLeod definitely should be rostered if he's not already, especially if you play in kick return, punt return stuff. But even if you don't, Raymond McLeod is a part of this Falcons offense. His stats over the first 2 weeks. Week 1, Raymond McLeod had 7 targets, 4 catches for 52 yards. Week 2, yesterday, last night's game, the Monday night game, 5 targets, 3 catches, 42 yards. You saw Kirk Cousins target him a couple times, like one time in the end zone. There was another time when Raymond McLeod was missed wide open and he threw it to London. So Raymond McLeod is kind of the wide receiver 3 for the Falcons. Plus he gets that kick return stuff and maybe he takes one to the house. I think he should be rostered. He can be a little bit, especially for best ball, kind of a boom bust type of play. And DeAndre Carter, very similar to Ray McLeod in terms of their roles. They're more of return specialist guys, but they're kind of being forced into the lineup due to injuries. DeAndre Carter was out there as the wide receiver 3 for the Bears because Keenan Allen missed time. And DeAndre Carter, nothing amazing, but he had 4 targets for 3 catches and 32 yards. Caleb Williams overthrew him in another one where I think it would have been a 20, 30-yard gain, maybe even a bigger gain. So you would have been looking at, 4 catches for 50, 60 yards. Man, if you play in best ball, DeAndre Carter can catch a 70-yard touchdown pass. He can take one to the house. You play in these deeper leagues, the guy's getting opportunity. He's getting opportunity. He played in 70% of the snaps. And any receiver that's out there 70% of the time for whatever team probably needs to be rostered in these deeper dynasty leagues because they're going to have games every now and then when they go off. Like Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is another one of those receivers who he's not putting up any stats right now, but he's out there like 70% of the time because of his run blocking. If you have a best ball team, and Mac Hollins, I'm throwing on my roster. Again, a player that's playing 70% of the snaps, and he's going to catch a touchdown. He's going to get a big catch. That's going to happen one of these games, a couple of these games. And I want to take advantage of that if I can. If something were to happen to one of these other receivers, Keon Coleman, Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins is going to have a little bit more of an expanded role. He's kind of next up in line. So Mac Hollins playing a lot of snaps out there, running a lot of routes for the Buffalo Bills. Tim Patrick, he kind of split snaps with Khalif Raymond in terms of who was the wide receiver 3. Obviously, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's Jamison Williams. And then the wide receiver 3 is either Tim Patrick or Khalif Raymond. I think if something were to happen to Amon-Ra St. Brown, we would see, which he did get hurt, by the way, but sounds like he's going to be okay. If something were to happen to St. Brown, I think we see Khalif Raymond kind of fill that St. Brown role. They are similar players. If we're just talking about who's the wide receiver 3 for the Lions, I actually think it might be Tim Patrick. And we've seen Tim Patrick be good before. So maybe he can be a consistent, reliable 3rd, 4th option for the Detroit Lions. A couple deep players here. Jalen Brooks is the wide receiver 4 for the Cowboys. So he's pretty clearly the wide receiver 4, in my opinion. So if something were to happen to CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, or Jalen Tolbert, well, then Jalen Brooks, I think, is going to step up and be the wide receiver 3 for the team, right? He was a 7th round pick in the 2023 draft. He played 40% of the snaps last week against the Saints. I think a lot of that was in garbage time. But week 1 against the Cleveland Browns, he played 21% of the snaps. So he is their 4th option. And the 3rd option for the Cowboys is actually going to be pretty good right now because of the Ferguson injury. Look at Jalen Tolbert. He had 9 targets last week. So Jalen Brooks is kind of one injury away from, people talking about him a little bit. And then Mason Tipton. This is a very deep one here. Mason Tipton out of Yale plays for the Saints. He is out there a decent amount of time. Like he's out there like 25% of the snaps. He got a little bit of a hype in training camp because the Saints were kind of looking for that wide receiver 3. Is it Cedric Wilson? Is it A.T. Perry? Is it maybe Mason Tipton? He got a little bit of hype in camp. He got hurt. Now they're kind of easing him back in my opinion. And we'll see. Maybe he gets a little bit more of an expanded role. And the Saints are maybe the best offense in the NFL. I don't think that's necessarily true, but they have been the first 2 weeks. If this keeps up, then you're going to catch, you're going to have a couple big plays from Mason Tipton. Finishing up with the tight ends, we have, first of all, Saints again, Foster Moreau. Foster Moreau, if he's out there on your waiver wire, I don't think he will be for a lot of you deeper dynasty leagues, but for some of you a little bit shallower leagues, Foster Moreau is the tight end one for the Saints right now, especially with Taysom Hill potentially missing time with the injury. But week 1, he played 77% of the snaps. Week 2, 80% of the snaps. Foster Moreau is the tight end 1 for the Saints, and we saw that materialize in week 1. 4 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown, right? That's going to happen if you're out there 70, 80% of the time. It just is. It just is. So Juwan Johnson seems to be relegated a little bit to more of a backup role. Maybe that's injury related and easing him back in, but he's played less than 50% of the snaps each of the first 2 weeks. Johnny Mundt, I keep bringing this guy up, but he is the receiving back. He is filling in for TJ Hawkinson. Okay. He's filling in for TJ Hawkinson. He's going to have games every now and then where Johnny Mundt is a top 12 tight end on the week because he goes 4 for 50 or he catches a touchdown, right? He's gotten 3 targets each of the last 2 weeks. Hasn't done much with those targets, but all it takes is 1 touchdown. All it takes is 1 game where you put up 4 for 60 and you're a top 12 tight end. He was out there 70% of the snaps in week 2 for the Vikings. They also have Josh Oliver. Josh Oliver is pretty clearly the blocking back for the Vikings. Eric All. This is probably this guy's probably rostered in a lot of leagues, but I do want to bring him up just because I think it's going to happen soon that Eric All is going to take over that tight end spot for the Bengals. I think he's just too talented. They could use a consistent third option for that team. Gesicki had a good game. Yeah, I understand, but we've seen the Gesicki show before. I think Eric All is going to take over this tight end room very, very soon. He's a very talented rookie. They really like him. They drafted him in like the either 4th or 5th round. I kind of forget where he was drafted. So Eric Hall, if he's out there, please pick him up. And then the last one here, I had to look up, always have to double check how to say it. Eric Saubert is the pronunciation guide for Pro Football Reference. Check that out if you're not sure how to say names. But Eric Saubert is how they write it in Pro Football Reference. When George Kittle left the game, Saubert was the one that took over for him. So just throwing that out there. Now, Kittle seemed to only have cramps, so nothing serious. But if Kittle, who has been injured before in the past, if Kittle misses time, then it sounds like Saubert's going to take over as the next guy in line. And, his snap percentage was 37%. During those snaps that he caught 2 passes for 26 yards. Like, you just kind of see they're going to use the tight end no matter who it is. Are they going to be as good as Kittle? Absolutely not. Could they just be a 3 to 5 catch, 30 to 60 yard guy? Yeah, I think they could be. So Eric Saubert, he's a professional tight end, been in the NFL since 2017. So I think they trust him. There you have it, guys. That's all I have for you for Deep Dynasty Waiver Wire Week 2. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll be back Week 3 with more players. Appreciate you all. See you all in the next video.